Hi, I'm Caleb Giddings from Gun Nuts Media, and today's video topic is very simple. It's called Why I Don't Hate on HiPoint Anymore. I've been in the firearms industry, in the media side, in the product side for over a decade now. And when everyone first starts out, it's really easy to hate on HiPoint. Oh, they're cheap. Oh, they're ugly. Oh, they're not very reliable. And all of these things are true. They're cheap, they're ugly, and their reliability is hit or miss. I've seen long-term tests done with HiPoints where they were pretty reliable, and then I've seen other HiPoints where they wouldn't feed an entire magazine without having a malfunction. But the longer I do this for a living, and the more people I see in classes, in gun shops, and who are actually looking to carry a gun for self-defense or own a gun for home protection, the less I hate on HiPoint. And the reason that I don't really hate on HiPoint anymore is because self-defense is an inalienable right, and the Second Amendment is for everyone, regardless of your financial well-being. And HiPoint has one thing going for it that makes me not want to hate on it, and that's that it's cheap. Follow my logic on this one. We all can agree that if you want to get a good gun for home defense or self-defense, you should probably buy a Glock or a SIG or an M&P 2.0 or a Beretta APX or a Walther PPQ or an HK VP9. One of those major brands of polymer frame semi-automatic striker-fired guns. Those are generally considered acceptable. And they all cost about the same. They're all about $500, and they're all going to work. You could throw me a bag full of those guns and say, you have to carry one of these for duty or personal protection, and I would reach my hand in and go, okay. When you're choosing between those major manufacturers that cost in that $500 range, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. They're all going to work. But what if you can't afford $500? What if that's too much money and you need a gun for self-protection? With one exception, I would say just go for the HiPoint. Now here's the thing. There is one exception to that. The Smith & Wesson SD9 is a cheap gun. It usually costs $250 to $350. Smith & Wesson often has rebates on it that make it even more affordable, and it works. It tends to work very, very well. So get that. That's what you should get. But a lot of people don't know about the SD9 and they don't want to buy one. So if you go down to that middle tier of $300 handguns where your cheap guns like your Tauruses live and some of these other, your Tauruses, your SCCYs, your Kel-Tecs, and all of these middle tier brands with janky quality control, you should skip all of those brands and go straight to HiPoint. And the reason for this is a HiPoint has just as much a chance of working correctly out of the box as a Taurus or an SCCY or a Kel-Tec or, I don't know, there's a million mid-tier crappy handgun brands. But the HiPoint is $200 cheaper, $150 cheaper. You know what you can do with $150 or $200? You can take a class. You can buy ammo. You can train. And if you're going to buy a HiPoint for personal protection, you should buy ammo for it. You should train with it. You should learn how to shoot it to the best of your ability. You should do that with any gun that you buy. And if you are financially constricted so that you're only thinking about spending $300 to $400, getting a HiPoint makes way more sense than buying a Taurus or a Kel-Tec or an SCCY. I'm sure there's other crappy brands out there that I'm forgetting, but to be perfectly frank, I don't keep up on the crappy brandosphere because they're crappy, and I like to buy good guns. Now, I don't own a HiPoint. I have in the past. I had one that worked, and it was fine. It was ugly, the trigger sucked, and it was heavy, but it worked. So if you don't want to spend $500 on a handgun, if you can't spend $500 on a handgun, with the exception of the Smith & Wesson SD9, which is super cheap and super reliable, and also with the added exception of there's a ton of great opportunities for police trade-in 40 cal guns right now. I don't normally like the 40 caliber, but if you just have $300 and you want to get a gun you know that's going to work, a police trade-in Glock 22 is a great choice. You can get one of those as well. But beyond the SD9 and the police trade-in guns, there's no point. Don't mess around in the mid-tiers, because a Taurus Millennium G2 has just as much a chance of working correctly as a HiPoint C9. Get the cheaper gun and get ammo to train with. I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching. And until next time, remember, run your gun and frequently run your mouth.